Ambassador Lee Minho walked slowly through the long corridors of Station Nexus. His black diplomatic shoes clicked against the metal floor with each step. Behind him, 3 other humans followed quietly. They all wore the dark blue uniforms of Earth's diplomatic service. The station was huge. Beings from hundreds of different worlds lived and worked here. Some had fur, others had scales. Some breathed different gases and needed special suits. But they all came here for one reason, to be part of the Galactic Council. Minho had been coming to this station for 15 years. He knew every corridor, every meeting room, every cafe. But today felt different. Today would be his last day here. They reached the main council chamber. The doors were 30 feet tall and made of some kind of crystal that changed colors. When Minho pressed his hand against the scanner, the doors opened with a deep humming sound. Inside, the chamber was full. Representatives from over 200 worlds sat in curved rows that went up toward the ceiling. Each seat had different life support systems. Some aliens needed hot air, others needed cold. Some breathed methane, others needed high pressure. At the center of the chamber was a floating platform. This was where speakers stood when they addressed the council. Minho had stood there many times before, usually to help solve problems between different species. Ambassador Minho of Earth, announced a mechanical voice. You have requested emergency speaking time. Minho stepped onto the platform. It lifted him 20 feet into the air so everyone could see him. He looked around at all the different faces, tentacles, and eye stalks watching him. Honorable representatives, he began. His voice was calm but firm. I come before you today to deliver a message from the United Earth Federation. In the front row, Councillor Thexvar leaned forward. He was from the reptilian hegemony and had 4 arms covered in green scales. His yellow eyes never blinked. We have served on this council for 70 years, Minho continued. In that time, humans have helped negotiate over 3,000 peace treaties. We have prevented countless wars. We have helped establish trade routes that connect the entire galaxy. Some of the aliens nodded. Others made sounds that meant agreement in their languages. But today, I must inform you that Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens were clicking, hissing, roaring, and making sounds no human throat could produce. The translator systems were overloaded trying to keep up with all the different languages. Thexvar slammed his 4 hands on his desk. Order! Order! He shouted. When the noise died down, he stood up. Ambassador Minho, surely this is just another human emotional outburst. You cannot be serious. Minho reached into his jacket and pulled out a small data crystal. He held it up so everyone could see it. 3 days ago, this council voted to approve Resolution 7749 Delta. This resolution allows the Zephyrian Empire to strip mine 3 inhabited worlds in the Outer Rim. The reason given was critical galactic resources for the greater good. The chamber got very quiet. Everyone knew about this resolution. It had been controversial, but it passed by a narrow vote. Those 3 worlds are home to over 50 million beings, Minho said. The Melodians of Kepler 442b. The crystalline entities of Proxima 7. The plant-based collective minds of New Garden. All of them will be destroyed to mine rare metals. Those species are not council members, Thexvar said dismissively. They have no voice here because they are too primitive to matter. And that, Minho said, his voice getting harder, is exactly why we are leaving. He pressed a button on the data crystal and threw it onto the central podium. A holographic message appeared in the air above it. For 70 years, humanity has tried to reform this council from within. We have pushed for representation of minor species. We have argued for protection of the weak. We have begged you to consider the rights of those who cannot defend themselves. The message continued to play, showing images of the 3 doomed worlds. Children playing in crystal gardens. Beings who looked like walking trees creating beautiful art. Simple people living peaceful lives. Every time, you have ignored us. You have told us that only the strong deserve to have a voice. That might makes right. That the needs of the powerful outweigh the rights of the weak. Captain Park Sabin watched from the observation deck above. She commanded the Earth diplomatic ship that would take them home. Behind her, the younger diplomats were recording everything. This is really happening, whispered Kim Do-yoon. He was only 25 and had dreamed his whole life of serving in the Galactic Council. Yes, Sabin replied quietly. It really is. Down on the platform, Minho was finishing his speech. We will not be part of a system that destroys the innocent. We will not be complicit in genocide. We choose to stand with the forgotten, the ignored, the abandoned. He turned toward the exit, then paused. We leave you with this final message: Earth will no longer mediate your disputes. We will no longer facilitate your trade agreements. We will no longer clean up the messes you create. You wanted to rule by strength alone. Now you can see how well that works. The chamber was dead silent as Minho and his team walked out. The massive crystal doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In his seat, Councillor Thexvar waved one of his hands dismissively. "Good riddance," he said loudly. "Those emotional humans were always getting in the way of real progress. We are better off without them." But in the back of the chamber, a few representatives looked worried. They remembered all the times human diplomats had prevented wars, solved trade disputes, and kept the peace. Within hours, the human ships had left Station Nexus. Behind them, they left an empty seat in the council chamber and a data crystal with one simple message. Humanity chooses to stand with the forgotten. The age of human diplomacy was over. 3 weeks had passed since the humans left. Council mediator Vostaran sat at his desk looking at a pile of emergency requests. His head hurt from reading them all day. Every page was another problem that needed solving. The first crisis started small. 2 trading ships had bumped into each other at the Alta Station loading dock. One ship belonged to the Altarian Federation. The other belonged to the Crystalline Collective. In the old days, this would have been easy to fix. Ambassador John Seojun would have sat down with both captains. He would have listened to their stories, found out what really happened, and helped them agree on who should pay for the damage. The whole thing would have been solved in 2 hours. But John was gone. All the humans were gone. Captain Zilkar of the Altarian ship was angry. His cargo hold was damaged and his expensive goods were ruined. He wanted the crystal beings to pay for everything. Captain Velthara of the crystalline ship was equally upset. She said the Altarian ship had changed course without warning. Why should her people pay for his bad flying? "We need a mediator," Zilkar demanded when he arrived at the council offices. "Get us one of those humans who always fix these things." "The humans are no longer available," Vostaran explained patiently. "You will have to work this out between yourselves." "Work it out ourselves?" Velthara's crystal body flashed angry red colors. "We do not negotiate with these furry creatures. They lie and cheat in every deal." "Furry creatures." Zilkar's fur stood up straight, which meant he was very angry. "At least we do not pretend to be pretty rocks when we are really just silicon parasites." The argument got worse from there. Both captains left without solving anything. They went back to their governments and reported that the other species had insulted them. Within days, both the Altarian Federation and Crystalline Collective were calling for trade sanctions. Vostaran tried to calm things down. He offered to mediate the dispute himself. But neither side trusted him. The Altarians said he was too close to the reptilian species who controlled the council. The Crystallines said he did not understand their culture. "Where is Jorn?" Zilkar kept asking. He understood how to talk to both our peoples. He made fair deals that everyone could accept. "Jorn is gone," Vostaran repeated for the 100th time. "All humans have withdrawn from council business." The crisis spread quickly. When trade between the Altarians and Crystallines stopped, it affected dozens of other worlds. The Altarians provided special metals that the Crystallines needed for their technology. The Crystallines made computer chips that the Altarians used in their ships. Soon, entire star systems were running short of basic supplies. On the planet New Buzan, former council negotiator Han Jiwon was trying to enjoy her retirement. She had bought a small farm and was learning to grow vegetables. It was peaceful work, very different from the stress of diplomatic meetings. Her communication device beeped with an incoming message. The sender was her old friend Subcommander Ziktal from the Altarian Federation. "Jiwon," the message began. "I know Earth has withdrawn from council affairs, but we desperately need help. The situation with the Crystallines is getting worse every day. Both sides are mobilizing military fleets. If someone does not intervene soon, we will have a full war." Jiwon stared at the message for a long time. She remembered Ziktal well. He was a good person who genuinely wanted peace. His people were not warlike by nature, but they would fight if they felt threatened. She started to write a reply, then stopped. Earth's orders were very clear. No human was allowed to get involved in council business. They had tried for 70 years to make the system work from inside. Now they would let the galaxy see what happened without human help. Jiwon deleted the message without answering. It hurt her heart to ignore her friend's plea, but she had no choice. Back on Station Nexus, More problems were piling up every day. The vegan collective was fighting with the Silicon Consortium over water rights to an asteroid field. The insectoid hives had declared 3 trade routes to be contaminated and refused to let other species use them. 2 different species were claiming ownership of the same uninhabited planet. Young Council Clerk Yundeli noticed something strange in the diplomatic records. He spent several nights going through old files, checking dates and signatures. "Sir," he said to Councillor Thexvar during the morning briefing, "I have been studying our diplomatic history. In the past 70 years, humans were involved in 93% of all successful peace agreements." "So?" Thexvar replied. He was busy reading reports about the latest border dispute. "Sir, they were not just participants. They were the key negotiators in almost every major treaty. The Trade Agreement of 2387, the Proxima Peace Accords, the Great Shipping Lane Treaty, all of these were negotiated primarily by human diplomats." "Your point, Clark?" "My point is that humans were not just members of the Council. They were the part that made everything work. Without them, we are free to make real progress," Thexvar interrupted. "No more endless debates about the rights of primitive species. No more delays while we consider the feelings of every minor civilization." But even as he spoke, Thexvar could see the problems growing. His desk was covered with urgent requests for mediation. Wars were starting that could have been prevented. Trade routes that had operated peacefully for decades were shutting down. By the end of the month, 12 different species had pulled their ambassadors out of various systems. Trade disputes that should have taken hours to resolve were dragging on for weeks. Several regions were talking about forming their own mini-councils without the major powers. The galaxy was slowly falling apart, one broken agreement at a time. And still, the council leaders insisted that everything was fine. They just needed time to adjust to the new system. The humans would come crawling back soon enough, begging to be allowed back in. But the humans were not coming back. They had made their choice, and now the galaxy would live with the consequences. Captain Nam Ti-hyung checked his cargo manifest one more time as his ship approached the Proxima Junction trading station. The Degu's Pride was carrying medical supplies, computer parts, and food packages, all bound for smaller colonies in the Outer Rim sectors. He had been running this same trade route for 12 years. Every month, he would pick up goods from the major manufacturing worlds and deliver them to colonies that the big trading companies ignored. It was not glamorous work, but it paid well and helped people who really needed these supplies. "Control Tower, this is cargo vessel Degu's Pride requesting docking permission," he spoke into his communication device. The response came back quickly, but it was not what he expected. "Negative, human vessel. The Vegan Collective has suspended all trade agreements with Earth-affiliated ships. You are not permitted to dock." Ti-hyung stared at the communication panel in confusion. "Control, I have been using this route for 12 years. My cargo is not even from Earth. These are supplies for the Kepler colonies. Orders are orders, human. Find somewhere else to dock." This was the 5th station this week that had refused to let him land. The major alien governments were trying to punish Earth by cutting off all human trade ships. But they did not understand how the trading system really worked. Ti-hyung was not just carrying Earth goods. His ship was loaded with medical equipment made by the Altarians, food grown on crystalline worlds, and computer chips manufactured by the Silicon Consortium. The human trading ships were like bridges that connected all the different species together. Now those bridges were being destroyed. On the remote world of Kepler 438b, Colony Administrator Song Hyejeon was looking at her supply reports with growing worry. Her settlement was home to 50,000 QEX-Aryan refugees who had fled their home world during a civil war. The QEX-Aryans were peaceful people who looked like large, furry bears. They were excellent farmers and engineers, but their bodies needed special medicines that could only be made with rare elements. Without these medicines, they would get sick and die within weeks. "Administrator," her assistant came running into the office. "The supply ship is 3 days overdue. I tried to contact Captain Nam, but I cannot reach him." Hyejeon felt a cold fear in her stomach. She knew what was happening. The human trade ships were being blocked from the major stations. Captain Nam probably could not get the medicines her people needed. "How much medicine do we have left?" she asked. "Maybe 3 weeks' worth, if we reduce the doses." "Send a message to Earth Command," Hyejeon said quietly. "Tell them we have 50,000 refugees who will need evacuation if we cannot get medical supplies." This same scene was happening on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Small colonies and refugee settlements had depended on human traders for everything they needed to survive. The major alien governments had never bothered to trade with these unimportant places. But humans were different. They would fly to any world, no matter how small or remote, if people there needed help. They did not care if a colony only had a few thousand inhabitants or if they could not pay very much. If someone needed food, medicine, or tools, human traders would find a way to deliver them. Now all of that was ending. On the planet Altus Prime, Trade Minister Kolvar was studying economic reports that made no sense to him. Profits from the major shipping lanes were down 30% in just 2 months. Several important trade routes had stopped operating completely. I do not understand these numbers, he told his assistant. We removed the humans from our trade networks. We should be making more money, not less. What Kolvar did not realize was that human merchants had been carrying goods between dozens of different species. When they stopped, the entire network began to fall apart. The Altarians made special metals, but they needed crystalline computer chips to process them. The crystallines needed vegan food supplies to feed their workers. The vegans needed insectoid biotechnology for their farms. The humans had connected all these different needs together. One human ship might visit 10 different worlds on a single trip, picking up goods from each planet and delivering them where they were needed most. Without human traders, each species had to try to trade directly with every other species. But most aliens did not trust each other enough to make these deals work. They had relied on humans to be neutral middlemen who could make fair agreements. On Earth, Economic Coordinator Baegion was receiving dozens of desperate messages every day. Small colonies were running out of food. Refugee settlements needed medical supplies. Mining stations had broken equipment and no way to get replacement parts. We cannot help them all, President Kim Min-ji said during their morning meeting. Our own colonies are already taking in as many refugees as they can handle. But we have to try, Jion replied. These people trusted us. They built their entire lives around the trade networks we created. We cannot just abandon them. Within days, Earth began sending colony ships to the most desperate settlements. They offered to evacuate anyone who wanted to leave and help them start new lives on human worlds. The message was always the same: we will not let you die alone. But for every colony they could save, there were 10 more they could not reach in time. The galaxy was too big, and there were too many people in need. The great economic machine that had kept thousands of worlds fed and supplied was breaking down. And the alien governments who had started this crisis were only beginning to understand what they had destroyed. The humans had not just been traders. They had been the heart that kept the galactic economy alive. Now that heart had stopped beating. Warprime Ketvar stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominion and looked at the star charts displayed on the main screen. His yellow reptilian eyes studied 3 small planets in the Titan system. Each world glowed softly in the holographic display. These worlds are perfect, he said to his officers. Rich in rare metals, good farming land, and only defended by primitive species. The Melodians have no real military force. His second-in-command, Subcommander Rixtal, nodded agreement. Intelligence reports show they have only a few old patrol ships and some basic orbital defense platforms. We could take all 3 worlds in less than a day. Ketvar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The hegemony of Scales had been waiting for an opportunity like this for many years. The Melodians were peaceful people who looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin. They were excellent musicians and artists, but they had never built a strong military. In the old days, the humans would have interfered, Rixtal continued. They always protected these weak species. But the humans are gone now. No one will stop us. The Warprime gave the order to jump to hyperspace. Behind his flagship, 50 heavy battle cruisers and 200 fighter ships followed. It was enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. But Ketvar was not planning to destroy the Melodian worlds. He wanted to capture them intact so his people could move in and start mining operations. The Melodians would make good workers, and their beautiful cities would become hegemony colonies. 3 hours later, the hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the first Melodian world. Ketvar expected to see a few frightened patrol ships trying to run away. Instead, he saw something that confused him. Sir, his sensor operator called out, I am detecting 17 ships in orbit around the planet. But they are not Melodian vessels. What species are they? Ketvar demanded. They appear to be human cargo ships, sir. Ketvar stared at the screen in disbelief. The ships were clearly marked as civilian vessels, freighters, colony transports, and merchant ships. They had human registration numbers and Earth Federation symbols on their hulls. What are civilian human ships doing here? He wondered aloud. His question was answered when his communication system activated. A human voice spoke in clear, calm tones. "This is Admiral O. Sihan of the vessel Incheon Wanderer. Hegemony Fleet, you are approaching civilian settlements. Please state your intentions." Ketvar laughed. "Human, this is War Prime Ketvar of the Hegemony of Scales. These worlds now belong to us. Your civilian ships have no business here. Leave immediately or be destroyed." "I am afraid I cannot do that," Admiral Sihan replied. "These people have asked for our protection. We will not abandon them." Protection? Ketvar could not believe what he was hearing. "You have cargo ships and colony transports. I have 50 battle cruisers. You cannot seriously think you can fight us." "We prefer not to fight anyone," Sihan said. "But if you attack innocent civilians, we will respond." Ketvar ended the communication and turned to his weapons officer. "Target the lead human ship. One blast should be enough to scatter the rest of them." The Dominion fired its main plasma cannon directly at the Incheon Wanderer. The weapon was powerful enough to cut a battleship in half. Ketvar expected to see the human ship explode in a ball of fire. Instead, something impossible happened. A shimmering energy barrier appeared around the human vessel. The plasma blast hit the barrier and simply disappeared, like water hitting a sponge. The Incheon Wanderer was completely undamaged. "What was that?" Ketvar shouted. "Cargo ships do not have defensive shields that strong." Before anyone could answer, the human ships began to move. But they did not move like slow, clumsy merchant vessels. They moved like dancers, spinning and weaving through space with impossible grace and speed. The Soul's Promise, which looked like a simple colony transport, suddenly unfolded like a flower. Hidden weapon ports opened along its hull, and bright energy beams lanced out toward the Hegemony fighters. The beams were not like any weapons Ketvar had ever seen. They moved too fast for his ships to dodge and struck with surgical precision. One by one, his fighters began to lose power and drift helplessly in space. "Sir," his tactical officer called out in panic. "The human weapons are not destroying our ships. They are just disabling them." More human vessels joined the battle. The Busan's Hope deployed what looked like a cloud of silver dust, but when Hegemony ships flew into it, their engines stopped working. The Daegu Guardian fired beams that seemed to pass right through armor but somehow shut down all the electronics inside. "This is impossible," Rixtal whispered. "These are supposed to be civilian ships. Cargo haulers and colony transports do not have military weapons." But Ketvar was beginning to understand. For 70 years, while other species had built huge military fleets, humans had chosen a different path. Every human ship, no matter what its official purpose, was designed to defend itself and others. They did not have battleships because they did not need battleships. Their merchant vessels were tougher than most species' warships. Their colony ships carried weapons that could disable entire fleets without killing anyone. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, 30 of Ketvar's ships were drifting powerless in space. Not a single crew member had been killed, but their vessels were completely helpless. "War Prime," came Admiral Sihan's voice over the communication system. "Your disabled ships will have power restored in 24 hours. I suggest you use that time to return to your own territory." "This is not over, human," Ketvar replied through gritted teeth. "Yes, it is," Sihan said simply. "Tell your leaders that the innocent people of this galaxy are under our protection. Attack them again, and next time we might not be so gentle." The message was clear. Humanity had withdrawn from diplomacy, but they had not withdrawn from protecting those who could not protect themselves. Former council leader Vextar walked slowly through the peaceful gardens of New Sol Colony. His heavy footsteps made soft sounds on the stone pathway. Around him, strange plants from dozens of different worlds grew together in beautiful harmony. It had been 1 full year since the humans left the Galactic Council. In that time, everything had changed. The mighty council that had ruled the galaxy for centuries no longer existed. The last 3 members had given up and gone home just 2 months ago. Vextar was old and tired. His gray skin showed the stress of trying to hold the galaxy together as it fell apart. He had come here to ask the humans to return, to save the civilization that was crumbling without them. A figure appeared from behind a cluster of flowering trees. It was Lee Minho, the former Earth ambassador. But he looked very different now. Instead of wearing a formal diplomatic uniform, he was dressed in simple work clothes. His hands were dirty from working in the soil. "Councillor Vextar," Minho said politely. "I heard you wanted to speak with me." "Ambassador Minho," Vextar began, then stopped. "Are you still an ambassador?" Not really, Minho replied with a small smile. These days I spend most of my time growing things. Would you like to see what we have planted here? As they walked, Vextar tried to begin his prepared speech. The galaxy needs leadership. The council is gone, but we could build something new. Something better. If Earth would just dash. There is no council anymore, Minho interrupted gently. And we are not interested in building a new one. But the chaos. The wars. Surely you can see what your withdrawal has caused. Minho stopped walking and knelt down next to a small tree with silver leaves. He carefully removed some weeds from around its base. This is a memory tree from Melodia. The hegemony tried to destroy their world 6 months ago. Now the Melodians live here, safe and free. They continued walking. Vextar saw children playing in a nearby park. Some looked human, but others had fur, scales, or crystal skin. They were all laughing and playing together. I do not understand, Vextar said. Who is in charge here? What is the government structure? How do you maintain order? We help, Minho said simply. When someone needs food, we feed them. When they need protection, we protect them. When they need a home, we give them one. But that is not how governments work, Vextar protested. You need laws, taxes, military forces, administrative systems dash. Do we? Minho asked. Look around you. Do you see disorder? Do you see conflict? Vextar had to admit that he did not. The colony was peaceful and prosperous. People from different species worked together, lived together, and seemed genuinely happy. They passed a large building where QEXarian engineers were working alongside human scientists. Through the windows, Vextar could see them designing new technologies together. Those are refugees from the Kepler colonies, Minho explained. They were starving when the trade networks collapsed. We evacuated them and brought them here. Now they are helping us develop better food production methods. But what do you want from them in return? Vextar asked. What do they pay in taxes? What military service do they provide? Nothing, Minho replied. They are safe. That is enough. Vextar could not understand this. You cannot run a civilization on charity alone. Someone has to be in charge. Someone has to make the hard decisions. The hard decisions are easy when you remember what really matters, Minho said. Are people safe? Are they fed? Are they free to live their lives in peace? Everything else is just details. They reached a memorial garden where thousands of small stones were arranged in careful patterns. Each stone had a name carved on it in different alien languages. These are the people who died while we were part of the council, Minho said quietly. Every being whose world was destroyed for galactic resources. Every refugee who starved while we debated trade regulations. Every child who died in wars we could have prevented. You cannot blame the council for every tragedy in the galaxy, Vextar protested. You are right, Minho agreed. But I can blame us for the ones we ignored while we argued about politics and power. A young Melodian approached them. Her silver skin sparkled in the afternoon sunlight. She spoke to Minho in her musical language, and he responded fluently. She wanted to thank me for helping her family escape from hegemony forces, Minho translated. Her children are starting school here next week. How many species have joined this arrangement of yours? Vextar asked. Joined? Minho looked puzzled. No one joins anything. 43 species have asked for our protection. We said yes. 6 to 7 new colonies have been established with our help. We have trade relationships with over 200 worlds. But what do you call it? What is the name of your new government? We do not call it anything, Minho said. Names create boundaries. Governments create hierarchies. We just help people who need help. As the sun began to set, they returned to the main settlement. Vextar watched families from dozens of different worlds sharing evening meals together. Former enemies were now neighbors. Species that had fought wars for centuries were now raising children side by side. The galaxy is bigger than you think, Minho said as they prepared to part ways. There is room for everyone if we stop fighting over who gets to be in control. But surely you must want something, Vextar insisted. Power, territory, resources dash. We want people to be safe, Minho replied. We want children to grow up without fear. We want the strong to protect the weak instead of exploiting them. As Vextar's ship prepared to leave, he looked back at the colony one last time. It was not what he had expected to find. There were no grand government buildings, no military parades, no monuments to power. Just people living together in peace. The galaxy was healing, one act of kindness at a time.